Today we've had a good opportunity to actually be on a roof where we have 3 different membranes. All right, Chicago, welcome back to another edition of our YouTube channel. I'm Jim with Anchor Point Roofing. Today we're in Lincoln Park. Things are finally starting to warm up and thaw out, people out everywhere. It's an exciting time to be a roofer. The 3 different types, we've got a smooth modified bitumen, we've got a granulated modified bitumen, and then we've got a 60 mil TPO. It's a great opportunity to check out what each one looks like visually, when and why they were used in Chicago, how talk about a little bit of some of the history. We'll talk a little bit about the benefits and drawbacks of each. Let's jump into it. All right, so the first one that we're gonna get on, this one is a smooth modified bitumen. I would say in Chicago, probably 85 to 90% of the flat roofs are this smooth modified bitumen. They call it smooth because it's smooth. One thing you do have to keep in mind, this is a little more cost effective, the smoother, slightly less costly than the granulated we're going to talk about, and then even a little less than the TPO. But let's focus on this one. You can see this has got what we call a silver coating on it. The silver coating is not a leak preventative device or coating. It's just simply for UV protection. If you can see some of these spots where it's starting to wear out here, this roof is ready to get another aluminum coating on it. It's smooth. You do get a really nice water runoff. It's a little easier to repair. Personally, when I'm doing inspections, it's a little easier to spot defects for maintenance for me. I'm getting old and my eyesight's kind of bad though, but it's really easy to see defects, pretty easy to repair also. The one drawback I would say is the aluminum coating. Every 5 years or so, you really need to put another nice coat of it on, but it's a great hardy product. It's very thick and strong. And it's a product we use, and like I said, probably 85 to 90% of the roofs, flat roofs you see in Chicago, are this smooth modified. So before modified bitumen and before we had the smooth, they would use what's called a burr, B-U-R, a built-up roof. A lot of times it was hot mopped on. It was about 1970s to the early 80s when this really started coming on the scene and people started slowly steering away from the hot mop and the built-up roof. So that's where we are in the history of this. The granulated, so you can see this one is called a granulated. This one's got the tiny little rocks on it like you would see on a shingled roof. This was about 10 years later. I heard that it started like closer to like the 80s in through the 90s when the granulated started coming more onto the market. But you can see all the little rocks. It's installed the same way. You still have the bleed out you want to see. This is not a roof we did, but it's a great example. And what these rocks do, these little granules, these help protect it from the UV. You know, on the smooth, we had the UV coating, the silver coating, that reflects it. But like I said, you have to put that on every 5 years. It takes a little more maintenance, a little easier to work with. But this, the rocks themselves, the little granules, reflect the UV. So it reflects it off in all different directions, but it prevents you from having to put an aluminum coat on, so less maintenance. You still need to have your roof inspected every 2 or 3 years, but this product, and it's actually becoming a little more popular all the time. You know, we've always used the smooth. We've kind of gone back with what we know. But we are moving a lot to granulated, and a lot of homeowners, a lot of buildings are now using the granulated modified. Again, a really hardy product. It's so strong. But yeah, a great product, and that's kind of a few of the differences. Again, probably the 80s and 90s and when it really came into roofing fashion, I would say. So number 3, TPO. This is a mule hide 60 mil TPO. This has come on the scene like probably in the last 20, 25 years. It really came on in the 90s, but it's really starting to gain popularity more and more now. A lot of commercial roofs have this, but definitely some residential. This is a residential building, are going for this too. It's 60 mils. So it's not as thick as the granulated or the smooth that we see. Environmentalists, city, and everyone, they really like this white because of the reflectivity. Even when you're standing on this versus the smooth versus the granulated, like you almost need a pair of sunglasses on a bright day because of the reflectivity. And the reflectivity is supposed to be really environmentally friendly, you know. You want it to reflect off the roof and back up into the atmosphere and not be absorbed like a black wood or something like that. I also really like the white. It just looks really sharp when it's done and clean. And the TPO is a little more expensive, a little more labor intensive. We like to glue it down. Sometimes you can also do what's called mechanically attached. We like to do fully adhere because it just lays down so nice. The 60 mil TPO, also a great product. It's kind of nice to see all three buildings here, see the different models, and we don't get a chance to look at each one like this all the time. That's pretty much it on the TPO as well. One other thing I do like about the TPO versus the granulated has 3-foot seams. You know, so every 3 feet, you're heat welding it. Every 3 feet, you have a seam, more opportunities for something to happen, a seam to open. You'll notice on this roof, if you can see, we've got one here, and the next seam is not for 10 feet. You can also get them in 12s, different sizes, but to have a seam only every 10 feet, as you can imagine, would be advantageous versus having it every 3. You know, you have 3 times the chances for a seam to open up or something like that. We don't see it a ton on the granulated. Usually it's not the field, the granulated or the smooth. Usually it's not the field that has the problem. It allows you to be a little more effective with your labor, as you can imagine. All right, Chicago, so that's our little summary of the 3 different roof types that we see mostly in Chicago when it comes to a flat roof. We've got the smooth modified over there. Here in the middle, we've got a nice granulated, and then we've got the white TPO that we put on. All 3 are great products. All 3 are kind of for different applications, but all 3 pretty nice products. That's it today, Chicago. Whether you're a homeowner looking for a roof repair or a contractor looking for the best materials, check out Anchor Point Roofing. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.